Welcome to Ancient Forbidden Knowledge. I'm your host, Ben Carter, and in today's episode we journey beyond Earth to a planet that has long stirred curiosity and fear. For centuries, Mars was seen as a lifeless rock drifting through the void. But in recent decades, strange images, unexplained signals and ancient legends have sparked a question more unsettling than any science fiction tale. What if Mars was once alive, home to a civilization lost to time, buried beneath crimson dust and silence? And if so, what did they leave behind, and why was it hidden? In the ancient skies, Mars was more than a distant planet. To the Babylonians, it was Nergal, the god of war and pestilence. The Egyptians called it Her-Desha, the Red One. Across cultures, Mars was feared, revered, and watched. Before telescopes, before probes, the ancients knew it moved strangely, unlike the stars. It glowed with a reddish hue that bled into their myths and rituals. And yet, what inspired such awe in a seemingly dead rock? The turning point came in the late 19th century. In the year 1877, the Italian astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli peered through his telescope and described seeing canali on the Martian surface. The word meant channels, but it was mistranslated as canals, artificial, intentional, made by something with hands and thought. The world took notice. Newspapers speculated wildly. Were these the works of a dying Martian civilization struggling to distribute water across a parched world? Percival Lowell, an American astronomer, seized on the idea. From his observatory in Arizona, he mapped the Martian canals and published books claiming Mars was inhabited by intelligent beings. According to Lowell, they were advanced, desperate, and rapidly disappearing. He was mocked by many of his peers, yet the public was captivated. In an era of colonial expansion and industrial marvels, the idea that another civilization had already risen and fallen on Mars ignited imaginations and unease alike. By the early 20th century, Mars had become a cultural obsession. H.G. Wells imagined Martians invading Earth in his novel The War of the Worlds. Others envisioned ancient ruins, statues, and cities waiting to be discovered. But as science advanced, Mars began to shrink in the public mind. The first close-up images from space probes in the 1960s showed a barren landscape. No canals, no cities, just rocks and craters. Yet even then, not everything fit the narrative. In the year 1976, NASA's Viking 1 spacecraft sent back a photograph from the Cydonia region of Mars. It showed a massive landform, shaped uncannily like a human face, symmetrical, staring upward. Alongside it, pyramid-like mounds and geometric shapes dotted the landscape. NASA dismissed it as a trick of light and shadow, but others saw something more, a monument, a message, evidence of a civilization long gone whose legacy had eroded into stone. Even more curious were the names assigned to features on Mars. The region around the face was labelled with terms like city square, fort, and cliff. Why would scientific teams use such anthropomorphic names if the formations were purely random? Some argued it was innocent labelling. Others believed the names betrayed a hidden acknowledgement, that what we were seeing on Mars was not just natural geology, but remnants of something built. This was not merely a question of science fiction. It was a challenge to everything we believed about the solar system, about Earth's place in it, and about our past. For if Mars was once alive, if it once had oceans, rivers, and air, then perhaps it also had art, language, and memory. And if so, what happened to it? Did war, disaster, or something more cosmic wipe it clean? The dust of Mars may be red with rusted iron, but its silence is louder than we think. The signs are not buried deep. They are written in the land itself, signs that speak of a time before time, when another world may have dreamed beneath a crimson sky. In the early 1990s, a former NASA consultant named Richard Hoagland reignited interest in the Martian anomalies. He presented the public with enhanced satellite images of the Cydonia region, arguing that the formations showed clear geometric relationships, angles, alignments, and proportions unlikely to occur in nature. The so-called face on Mars was not isolated. It was surrounded by structures that appeared to mirror the layout of ancient cities on Earth. Hoagland called it the City and claimed it showed evidence of intelligent design. The reaction from the scientific community was swift and dismissive, but the public fascination only grew. At the same time, rumours began to surface from within intelligence circles. A man known only as Mr. X leaked documents suggesting that the US government had classified data on ancient structures beneath the Martian surface. One report referenced deep penetration radar scans that detected hollow chambers beneath the face and the adjacent mounds. Another claimed that ancient writing, similar to early Sumerian cuneiform, had been identified on boulders near the Martian equator. These documents were never authenticated, yet they were never fully denied either. As with many leaks, the power was not in proving them, but in how they destabilized what we thought we knew. The most damning revelation came from a different direction: remote viewing. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union experimented with psychic espionage. Programs like Stargate trained operatives to project their consciousness to distant places, gathering information beyond the reach of satellites or spies. One session, declassified in the early 2000s, described a remote viewer tasked with observing a location without being told it was Mars. The viewer described towering structures, immense pyramids, and beings who appeared to be in a state of suspended animation. When asked for a time frame, the viewer said it was hundreds of thousands of years in the past. That session is now widely circulated, often ridiculed by skeptics. But the specificity of the account, combined with its alignment to visible Martian geography, keeps it in the conversation. Why would a trained operative with no knowledge of the target describe exactly what others had theorized about Mars? Could it be that our distant memories, myth, legend, and dream are not only of Earth? There are also the missions that failed. Nearly 2/3 of all spacecraft sent to Mars have failed to complete their journey or transmit meaningful data. Engineers blame malfunctions, poor calculations, or interference from cosmic radiation. But others whisper of something more: a planetary defense system, a warning, or perhaps a presence that does not want to be rediscovered. And then there is the matter of the Martian atmosphere. In the year 2014, data from the MAVEN spacecraft revealed that Mars lost most of its atmosphere suddenly, within a geological blink. The official explanation was solar wind, but some scientists have questioned whether it could have been the result of a massive explosion, possibly nuclear. Theories emerged suggesting that traces of xenon-129 in the Martian atmosphere match signatures found after atomic tests on Earth. Was Mars the site of a planetary war? Did a civilization destroy itself, or was it destroyed by something else? The fragments are scattered, but they point in one direction. Something was found on Mars. Something ancient, something inconvenient, and someone somewhere decided the world was not ready to know. In the shadows of official silence, the evidence has continued to surface, piece by piece, clue by clue. From satellite anomalies to unexplained geological formations, the Martian surface seems to whisper a forgotten story. In high-resolution images taken by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, certain regions display angular patterns, right-angled walls and formations that mirror architectural blueprints. One such formation, located in a region known as Elysium Planitia, shows 4 long ridges converging around a central depression, an arrangement eerily reminiscent of a ziggurat or stepped pyramid. Scientists call it pareidolia, the tendency of the human brain to see patterns in randomness. But not all patterns are illusions. When structures align with cardinal directions, follow geometric precision, or mirror known archaeological designs, pareidolia becomes a fragile excuse. In the Cydonia region alone, researchers outside the mainstream have catalogued dozens of features with consistent spacing and mathematical symmetry. They suggest that these were once part of a larger complex, perhaps a city or ceremonial site, eroded by time and buried under dust storms that rage for months. Some of the strongest clues come from digital elevation models. When terrain is analysed for height and slope, buried foundations begin to appear. In some regions, long rectangular platforms sit beneath layers of sediment, their outlines still visible in infrared scans. These are not meteor impact zones. They lack blast patterns. They do not match natural erosion. They look, unmistakably, like ruins. Beyond visual anomalies, there is chemical evidence. Spectrometer data from Mars rovers has detected unusual concentrations of thorium and potassium, elements associated with nuclear reactions. In particular, the Gale crater shows isotope ratios that some researchers claim indicate a sudden, high-energy event. On Earth, such signatures are found only in locations of human nuclear activity. Why would similar markers exist on a planet supposedly untouched by life? Even more puzzling is the presence of fused glass, materials formed when sand is exposed to intense heat, such as a nuclear explosion or a meteor impact. While meteor strikes can cause such glass, the distribution pattern on Mars does not follow known impact sites. Instead, the glass fields are widespread and seemingly arbitrary, unless they were caused by something unnatural. Amateur researchers, often using publicly available NASA data, have uncovered objects that resemble mechanical debris. One image from the Spirit rover shows a small, metallic-looking, gear-like object half buried in the soil. Another features what appears to be a corroded tube protruding from a rock face. NASA calls these image artifacts or natural mineral shapes, but for many the resemblance to technology is too striking to dismiss. Perhaps most damning of all is the absence of detailed follow-up. Each time an anomaly gains attention, be it a face, a structure, or a strange material, the data stream slows, the region is reclassified, or the mission directive shifts. Mars is vast, yet exploration seems to avoid its most controversial zones. The face in Cydonia, once so prominent in early photographs, is now rarely mentioned in official updates. No rover has been sent to investigate it directly. No lander has approached its base. For a space agency devoted to discovery, the silence is telling. These fragments, scattered across images, chemical reports, and satellite maps, do not prove a civilization once thrived on Mars. But they show a pattern of avoidance, obfuscation, and selective attention. They show that something is there, something too structured to be natural, too precise to be coincidence. And yet, no one seems willing to ask the questions that matter. What lies beneath the red dust, and who, if anyone, is making sure we never find out? From the deserts of Egypt to the mountains of Peru, ancient structures on Earth share a strange resonance with the anomalies seen on Mars. The pyramids of Giza are aligned with the stars of Orion's belt. The temples of Angkor Wat mirror the Draco constellation. Across continents and cultures, civilizations that supposedly had no contact with each other constructed monuments with precise celestial alignment, advanced geometry, and often inexplicable engineering. This shared architectural language has long puzzled archaeologists, but what if the answer does not lie only on Earth? In the layout of the Cydonia region on Mars, researchers have identified angular separations and ratios that echo sacred geometries found in ancient sites worldwide. The so-called D and M pyramid, situated near the face on Mars, appears to be aligned with the Martian cardinal points, similar to how the Great Pyramid of Giza is oriented. Distances between features in Cydonia follow mathematical constants like pi and the square root of 2, numbers revered by ancient builders and encoded into temples and tombs across the globe. The Dogon tribe of Mali, West Africa, possessed knowledge of the Sirius star system that modern science only confirmed with telescopes. They speak of beings from Sirius who visited Earth in ancient times, descending from a red star. The Dogon refer to these visitors as the Nommo, and describe them as amphibious, wise, and coming from a dying world. Mars, with its once wet surface and potential for past life, fits that profile uncomfortably well. How could a tribe isolated for centuries possess such precise astronomical knowledge and such specific mythology? Mesoamerican cultures carved images of feathered serpents descending from the heavens, beings who taught language, agriculture, and the calendar. In Sumer, the Anunnaki were said to descend from the sky to give kingship to man. In Hindu lore, Vimanas, flying chariots powered by strange energies, moved across the sky and even between planets. These myths are often dismissed as symbolic, but taken together they form a pattern too coherent to ignore, a pattern that implies shared contact, shared memory, or a shared origin. The question then becomes, where did these builders and teachers come from? Why did they all point to the stars? And why does Mars, of all the celestial bodies, seem to echo the forms, proportions, and placements seen in Earth's oldest monuments? Even linguistic echoes persist. In the Martian anomalies, some theorists have claimed to detect the outlines of symbols similar to Earth's earliest scripts, Proto-Sumerian pictographs and symbols resembling early Chinese oracle bone characters. Though this remains highly controversial, the possibility of a shared language origin across worlds raises implications far beyond archaeology. If language, geometry, and cosmology link Earth's ancients to Mars, then we are not looking at isolated mysteries. We are tracing the faint outline of a vanished blueprint. The same blueprint seems to underlie myth as well. Flood stories appear in nearly every ancient culture, often paired with tales of great destruction from above. What if the flood was not only Earth's reckoning, but a memory of something that happened elsewhere first? What if the architects of our civilization were not born here, but came in search of refuge, rebuilding what they lost? The echoes are not coincidence. They are the scattered traces of a forgotten lineage, one that connects planets, cultures, and epochs, one that was erased, but not completely. Mars may hold the ruins, but Earth holds the memory. And together, they tell a story that has never been fully heard. The institutions entrusted with discovering truth have often been the first to guard its boundaries. In the realm of planetary science, Mars has become a battleground, not of data, but of interpretation. Official agencies like NASA, the European Space Agency, and others provide high-resolution images, detailed chemical analyses, and public-facing missions. But when it comes to the anomalies, those geometric ridges, those structured landforms, those shadowed ruins, the tone changes. Descriptions become vague, imagery becomes scarce, and theories outside the accepted framework are quickly dismissed, often without real investigation. Academic journals will not publish serious discussion of artificial structures on Mars. Grant funding does not flow to research that entertains the idea of a Martian civilization. Professors who stray into the territory of ancient alien theory or forbidden archaeology risk their careers, reputations, and credibility. The wall is not made of fact, it is made of fear. Fear of ridicule, fear of exile, fear of finding something that unravels too much. Peer review, intended to uphold scientific integrity, has become a gatekeeping mechanism. Alternative theories are rejected not for lack of data, but for lack of conformity. The moment a conclusion veers into the unorthodox, it is labelled pseudoscience. The evidence is ignored, not tested. The photographs are explained away without independent analysis. The data is buried beneath professional silence. The term conspiracy theory is itself a tool of containment. It reduces any attempt to question orthodoxy into a joke. A scholar who writes about Martian ruins becomes not a thinker, but a crank. A scientist who analyzes strange isotopes in Martian soil is accused of chasing ghosts. And yet, many of these same institutions embrace the search for microbial life, theoretical aliens, and signs of water, so long as the implications remain comfortably distant. A bacterium on Mars? Acceptable. A civilization? Unthinkable. Part of this resistance lies in the hierarchy of knowledge. Science depends on a timeline, a sequence of events from the Big Bang to the present, shaped by carbon dating, fossil records, and geology. A civilization on Mars, particularly one older than anything on Earth, shatters that model. It demands a re-evaluation of origin myths, not just religious but academic. It threatens to rewrite the story from the top down. There is also the question of control. Knowledge is power. And if the truth about Mars implies that humanity is not the first, not the most advanced, and not alone, then institutions lose their authority. Religious bodies lose their primacy. Political powers lose their foundation. A world that believes it is unique cannot easily accept evidence that we are the continuation of something older, stranger, and possibly greater. It is not lack of evidence that keeps the Martian question in the shadows. It is the architecture of denial. A carefully constructed firewall of ridicule, policy, and professional risk. The gatekeepers of knowledge are not protecting us from nonsense. They are protecting themselves from the implications of truth. And yet, in the margins, the silence breaks. Rogue academics, independent researchers, and former insiders continue to publish, to investigate, and to connect the pieces. Their voices are growing louder, their work more detailed, and with every new mission to Mars, every new image, and every whispered leak, the firewall weakens. Not because it is attacked, but because it cannot contain what was never truly buried, only ignored. Beyond the limits of sanctioned research, theories have flourished that seek to explain what Mars might once have been, not as myth, but as memory. These ideas, often ridiculed by mainstream academia, propose models of history that include advanced spacefaring civilizations, lost technologies, and multidimensional awareness far beyond what modern science is prepared to accept. One of the most persistent theories is that Mars was once home to a thriving civilization, technologically superior to ours, that met its end through cataclysm, either self-inflicted or from forces beyond its control. This civilization, the theory goes, understood not only physical engineering but energetic architecture. Their structures harnessed natural planetary forces. Their machines operated with vibration and frequency. They may have even manipulated gravitational fields to traverse the stars or portals to move between dimensions. To modern ears, these claims sound fantastical. But similar concepts appear in nearly every ancient text on Earth, from the Vedic hymns of ancient India to the creation epics of the Maya. In the Rig Veda, Vimanas were said to fly without wings, guided by thought and fire. These craft were not metaphor. They were described with specifications, speeds, and battle capabilities. In the Popol Vuh, sky beings arrived in shafts of light to teach and rule. And in ancient Egyptian lore, the gods came from a realm beyond the sky, leaving behind temples, wisdom, and mysterious machines that no longer function. Some researchers suggest that Mars was not merely inhabited, but served as a kind of outpost, a stepping stone between Earth and even more distant origins. Its proximity, its once thick atmosphere, and its now lost water systems make it a logical candidate. And if a Martian civilization knew its world was ending, it may have sent survivors to Earth. This would explain the sudden appearance of advanced knowledge in early human societies, the myths of sky gods, and the strange genetic leaps seen in human evolution. Others propose an even more radical idea, that Mars and Earth were once part of a single civilization that spanned both planets. Evidence of simultaneous development, mirrored mythologies, and aligned structures could be the remnants of a dual-world culture. Perhaps a cosmic war divided them. Perhaps a shift in planetary frequency rendered Mars uninhabitable. In this view, we are not the beginning of a story. We are the remnants of a fractured one. Still more fringe voices speak of interdimensional origins, that the Martians were not physical beings as we understand them, but consciousnesses that took form only when necessary. Their ruins, if they exist, are not just architectural but energetic, encoded in the vibrational fields of the planet. These theories often intersect with the concept of the Akashic record, a universal memory that retains the full history of all things, accessible not by technology, but by altered states of awareness. Some believe this is why ancient cultures practiced deep meditation, ritual sacrifice, and ecstatic trance, not for religion, but for remembering. To reach back to a time before time, to access the lost knowledge encoded not in books, but in the very structure of the cosmos. Could it be that the secrets of Mars were never truly gone, only hidden behind the veil of perception? Each of these theories, however unconventional, arises from patterns in myth, architecture, and anomaly that refuse to vanish. They persist because something deep within the human psyche recognizes them, because what we see on Mars and what we have forgotten on Earth may be two halves of the same enigma. An enigma written not just in stone or dust, but in the forgotten language of the stars. Across the corridors of history, one question emerges again and again, not just what was lost, but who chose to bury it. When examining the possibility of an ancient civilization on Mars, we must also ask why the truth would be hidden. Who benefits from our ignorance? Who gains from the silence that blankets both the Red Planet and our collective past? Power structures, whether ancient or modern, thrive on control. Control of history means control of identity. If the narrative begins with chaos, followed by order imposed by rulers, prophets, or scientists, then the institutions they represent become gatekeepers of meaning. But if humanity's origin lies in a forgotten partnership with something off-world, or worse, if our ancestors were survivors of a greater cosmic collapse, then the foundation of modern authority crumbles. The lie is not just about Mars. It is about who we are. Religious authorities have long declared Earth as unique, humanity as chosen, and creation as divine and singular. A Martian civilization, especially one that predates our own, violates this cosmology. It introduces new creators, new timelines, and new interpretations of divinity. The god of a single world gives way to the architects of many. And those architects, if once flesh and blood, change the nature of worship from reverence to remembrance. Secular powers, too, have reason to suppress. The modern world is structured around geopolitical control, technological dominance, and historical narrative. If evidence were to emerge showing that a civilization once thrived on Mars, wielding energy systems beyond fossil fuels, possessing machines that could levitate stone and manipulate matter, then the entire scaffolding of global economics collapses. Oil becomes irrelevant. Borders become meaningless. Power shifts from nations to knowledge. Then there are the secret keepers, organizations rumored to guard forbidden knowledge. Ancient priesthoods that fled underground with what they salvaged. Fraternal orders that encoded secrets in symbols and ritual. Intelligence agencies that redact, redirect, and repurpose information under the guise of national security. The so-called breakaway civilizations, those who, according to some, discovered this truth long ago and built hidden technologies from it, would have every incentive to keep the rest of humanity blind. If you inherited the remnants of Martian science, would you share it or use it to rule? Erasure is rarely accidental, it is surgical. The evidence does not vanish, it is misfiled, discredited, or lost in plain sight. Images altered, missions redirected, witnesses silenced, truth turned into fiction. Even Hollywood plays a role, packaging real anomalies into entertainment, ensuring that when truth finally leaks, it is dismissed as déjà vu from a movie. Some point to ancient texts that speak of watchers, guardians, and punishments for those who reveal too much. Perhaps the erasure of Martian memory is not merely human. Perhaps it is enforced by something else, something invested in keeping the past sealed. In the end, what is hidden is not only stone and ruin. It is the story of what we were, what we inherited, and what we are capable of becoming. Those who control that story control the destiny of Earth. And as long as Mars remains a forbidden chapter, humanity will remain an unfinished book. If the veil were lifted, if the hidden history of Mars were revealed and proven beyond denial, the implications would stretch far beyond archaeology or astronomy. It would demand a total reconfiguration of human identity. No longer would we be the isolated stewards of a blue planet, but the descendants, or perhaps the survivors of a cosmic lineage. The boundaries of science, religion, and politics would collapse under the weight of a truth long buried beneath red dust and institutional denial. Human history would not begin with stone tools and firelight, but with collapse and exile. What we call progress would be revealed as rediscovery. The myths of golden ages, sky gods, and celestial wars would transform from metaphor to memory. Our sacred texts, reinterpreted through this lens, would no longer speak of divine revelation, but of interplanetary tragedy, survival, and the passing down of forbidden knowledge through chosen lineages. If Mars once flourished, then Earth may not have been the cradle of civilization, but its refuge. Our earliest cities, Sumer, Mohenjo-Daro, Göbekli Tepe, may not have been inventions of agricultural revolution, but echoes of older knowledge. Rebuilding efforts guided by those who remembered. Survivors who encoded their story in symbols, monuments, and rituals, hoping it would one day be understood. Technology would be the next battleground. The implications of ancient energy systems, those that could extract limitless power from planetary harmonics or manipulate gravity with sound, would dismantle modern industry. The fossil-fueled infrastructure, the scarcity-based economy, the slow drip of innovation controlled by corporations and patents, none of it could survive a revelation of free, non-terrestrial energy. Medicine, transportation, and communication would evolve beyond recognition. The question would no longer be what is possible, but why it was denied for so long. Religion would fracture. Some would cling to familiar doctrines, reshaping ancient alien presence as divine intervention. Others would reject organized faith entirely, turning to cosmic spirituality or ancestral memory. The schism would not be between believer and skeptic, but between those willing to accept a rewritten cosmos and those who fear it. A Martian origin would force humanity to rethink the soul, the afterlife, and the very structure of consciousness. And politically, the fallout would be uncontrollable. Governments that had suppressed the truth would face revolt. Institutions would lose legitimacy overnight. New alliances might form, not along national lines but philosophical ones, those who seek to integrate ancient knowledge and those who would destroy it out of fear or greed. Most unsettling of all, the revelation would open doors to new questions, questions without comforting answers. If a civilization thrived on Mars and was wiped away, who or what caused its fall? Was it war? Was it nature? Or was it something else, something still watching? And if we are the inheritors of that legacy, how close are we to repeating their fate? The truth about Mars is not just about another planet. It is about what we are, where we come from, and what lies dormant within us. It challenges the foundations of every system we rely upon, not because it destroys them, but because it reveals they were built on sand. The silence of Mars is not emptiness, it is restraint. A world that once may have echoed with voices, machines and memory now drifts in isolation, its secrets held beneath stone and shadow. But silence is not absence, it is a choice. The ruins do not speak, because we have not yet remembered how to listen. And those who have glimpsed the truth, scientists silenced, images obscured, myths dismissed, have paid the price for stepping beyond the bounds of permitted knowledge. Still, the fragments remain. In every image of the Martian surface where geometry defies nature, in every myth that speaks of sky beings descending in fire, in every ancient structure on Earth that mirrors something not of this world, we are surrounded by echoes, resonances that refuse to die, because truth, no matter how buried, resists extinction. We were taught to believe that the stars are distant, that other planets are empty, and that humanity is the center of its own story. But perhaps we are only the current chapter. Perhaps the authors of the previous volume lived and died on another world, one now scarred and windblown, its libraries destroyed, its temples shattered, but its memory persists, not only on the surface of Mars, but within the coded patterns of human myth, architecture and imagination. The danger is not in discovering this history. The danger is in what happens if we do not. For a civilization that forgets its origins is doomed to repeat its collapse. The story of Mars may be more than curiosity, it may be a warning. A message etched into stone and silence saying, "We were here, we rose and we fell. Learn from us or join us." In the end, we are left with questions that disturb the comfortable rhythm of modern life. What if the gods of old were the remnants of Martians seeking refuge? What if our own rise to civilization was not invention, but inheritance? And what if the universe is not waiting to be discovered, but to be remembered? We stand now at the edge of that remembrance. And with every mission to Mars, every probe, every image sent back from the Red World, we get closer, closer to seeing the outline of something lost. Closer to admitting that the human story began far before Earth's first cities, and perhaps far beyond Earth itself. Thanks for listening. This has been Ancient Forbidden Knowledge. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to support the show, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Subscribe now.